Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. We want to welcome our friends in South Africa, the United States, and around the world to this week's edition of A Conversation with El-Hajj Mauri Saalakhan. I'm pleased to be your host, coming to you once again through the Salam Media platform out of Johannesburg, South Africa. Salam Media is an online portal for humanitarian journalism. We don't just report the news, we advise you on what you can do about it. Today, brothers and sisters, I'm coming to you from DFW, Texas. I'm in Dallas, Fort Worth. I've been here for the past couple of days, actually since Thursday, and we are here because of some special efforts taking place for our sister in Islam, Dr. Afia Siddiqui. Many of you are aware, those of you who have been following this saga, that President Joe Biden is winding down on his presidency, and he's issuing clemencies, presidential clemencies and pardons, and our hope is that a number of our political prisoners, including Dr. Afia Siddiqui, will be among those who receive clemency or pardon. This is the least President Biden can do, given his record of how his administration has impacted the Muslim community and those who are in sympathy with what has been happening to the Muslim community, especially abroad. Before we get into the meat of what we're going to be sharing with you today, this is going to be a very special broadcast, and it's also going to be an abbreviated broadcast because of our late start. We were having some serious technical difficulties, and that's what resulted in the late start we're having this afternoon here in Texas, this evening in Johannesburg, South Africa. But with that being said, what we want to begin with is just a little piece of a rally that we held yesterday outside the gates of FMC Carswell. This is the military reserve base where our sister, Dr. Afia Siddiqui, has been imprisoned for well over a decade. Let's see that piece of video, Brother Sadiq. Now, as you can see, that was a sizable demonstration. I congratulate and really express my deepest gratitude for the Muslims who turned out to show their support for their sister in Islam, Dr. Afia Siddiqui. Again, that was a very impressive gathering of concern for Dr. Afia Siddiqui outside the gates of FMC Carswell. Now, with that being said, the remainder of the program is going to be an airing of a very important discussion that took place just a short time ago between former members of a brotherhood who were wrongfully imprisoned and tortured at Guantánamo. The discussion is being led by our good brother out of the UK, Brother Muazzam Beg. He himself a former Guantánamo prisoner, and along with a number of others. This is a very important conversation. The discussion lasted for about an hour and a half. So what we're going to do is show you about a half hour of that broadcast, what we can fit into what remains of today's broadcast. And the rest you'll be able to see at your leisure. We're going to include a link to this very important conversation in the comments section. And so you can watch the rest of this very important conversation that focused quite a bit as well on our sister, Dr. Afia Siddiqui, at your own leisure. Without any further ado, let's go to the broadcast, Brother Sonic.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Dear brothers, sisters, friends, Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you happen to be in the world. Alhamdulillah, we are at Cage, very honored and pleased to be able to present to you this exclusive discussion between solely former Guantanamo prisoners from around the world. And as we mark the 23rd anniversary since the opening of the world's most notorious prison, it's sobering to note that the people here right now that are speaking to you have between us spent 71 years in prison without charge, without trial, by the world's most vociferous advocate of human rights, freedom, justice, and democracy. And that is one of the greatest ironies of this gathering here today. But beyond that, we will be in for a wonderful discussion because the people we have are from literally from different time zones, different continents, but all with a shared experience. Amongst them, I am the least qualified to talk about the experience in Guantanamo because I spent the least amount of time in comparison to them. And that's why I'm honored to host and allow them to speak on the topics that we want to get out to you. So with us, we have, first of all, the last person that was released from Guantanamo from this group is Sufyan Barhoumi, who's an Algerian who's held from 2002 until 2022. And that's 20 years, 2 decades. And he's joining us from Algiers in Algeria. We have Abdul Latif Nasser, who I had the honor to visit a couple of years ago, who's joining us from Casablanca. He's a Moroccan national who also was held for almost 20 years in Guantanamo without charge or trial. And we have Omar Khadr, who is a Canadian national. His case is very well known. He was amongst and arguably in some cases, the youngest prisoner in Guantanamo. He is a Canadian national who was held for 10 years in Guantanamo and then a further 3 years in Canada and was eventually released. And his case, as I said, is very well known, especially in the English-speaking world. And we have our own Mansour al-Daifi, whose case is very well known. Again, he spent 15 years in Guantanamo. He was resettled from Guantanamo to Serbia, of all places, where he has continued to fight for the release of Guantanamo prisoners and has joined Cage a few years ago as our head of the Guantanamo projects. So I'd like to first start off, before we even get to Guantanamo, there's one particular case that I recently spoke to the sons of Muhammad Rahim, who is the last Afghan in Guantanamo, who we are trying to some way find a way for him to be released. One of the things his sons told me is that a message came from him from Guantanamo. And he said, if it means that I remain in prison for the rest of my life, that Afia Siddiqui gets released and freed is more dear to me than me coming back home to my children. That's the message that he'd sent to his kids. Now that's coming from a man who's been held now for 22, coming on to 22 years. So it's a case that I think every one of us prisoners knows. Every one of us has come across. Everyone is deeply kind of aware of it. So I'm going to start first by asking our brother Abdul Latif Nasser. who, as I said, is joining us from Morocco. What sense do you have, Abdul Latif, about Afia Siddiqui's case, and how does it affect you as a former prisoner of Guantanamo? If you can unmute yourself, Abdul Latif. If you can unmute yourself, you're muted.
Salam everyone, and thank you for having me today. It is my honor to be a part of this event, and I would like to take advantage of this moment to express my gratitude to Cage organization and to all contributors who make this event possible. So as we come together to mark 23 years since the establishment of Guantanamo, we must to reflect on the deep unfairness of its what it represents. So this meeting, it is not just this event. It is not just a meeting to share our testimonies. It is more than that. It is a call to act in this urgent moment. As you know, time is running out, and we must to do something to act, so that other people who are still stuck there to be released soon. So regarding Sister Afia, as we all know, she's a scientist, she's a very educated woman. And if, as a survivor of Guantanamo, I couldn't survive the hardship that I used. I am a man, and even so, the hardship that I went through, it is unimaginable. So imagine for a man, and I have to admit it is unimaginable. And if not my belief in God, that this trial is just a test for me to be patient, I could not survive these horrible things that happened to me as a man. So let alone for a woman. And we all know what she went through. So from this point, I just want to call for everybody to join together and to make what it is good for this sister to be released. That's my point.
Brother Mu'azzam, you're muted. You're muted, Mu'azzam.
Sorry, coming to Omar. Omar, the last time I physically saw you was in Bagram. We've still not met yet physically since that time. And I've been back to Bagram and seen the prison, seen the places where we were together. And I used to hear the screams, probably before you came, I used to hear the screams of a woman in Bagram. As someone that was in that place, that someone that experienced that whole period, we've been investigating and finding eyewitnesses to the fact that she was there for 5 years. What goes through your mind? You yourself was just was a young child at that time, but what goes through your mind when you think of a woman in that place, in that horrible place?
Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah. Thank you so much for letting me speak. SubhanAllah, when I saw some of your interactions in Guantanamo in Bagram, I was a little bit envious and jealous of that, to be able to go there and from a different perspective and a position of, inshallah, power rather than detention. When I went to Bagram, I was 15 years old, and I didn't have a lot of understanding of, like, I knew this was prison and I knew the bad things that were happening, but I didn't hear about Sister Afia until much later. Like when I was there, I was just trying to survive and figure out what I'm doing amongst a lot of adults and, you know, interrogators and soldiers, and just it was a very odd and very violent environment. And, you know, everything that I've went through that was documented, I was told by my interrogator right before I left how lucky I was with the abuse that I got, that I was very lucky to have been injured because they didn't give me the full treatment. So I can only imagine what Sister Afia has gone through. And, you know, the world, you know, more recently, I've been thinking about what the West has left the East with, and they talk about human rights, they talk about women's rights. Like right now in Syria, everybody's, you know, going off about, you know, making sure to protect minorities and women's rights and all of that. And you just see in the reality that that is all just a sham and it's just fake. And I can, like, I've experienced some stuff myself, and I've seen other people who are abused and tortured. I can only imagine a lonely woman with nobody with her, and the extent, like the US has nobody to stop it. The extent that they would have, what they might have, and I'm sure have done to her is just something I can't even imagine. It's just appalling that, you know, here we are in the 21st century, we're talking about, you know, that a woman should not be abused and should not be tortured and should give in due process. It's just mind-boggling, especially me being and living in the West here.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you for that reflection. Sufyan, I wanted to ask you, you know, Afia Siddiqui has been described, when I go to Guantánamo, you must have heard of Clive Stafford Smith from Guantánamo. He's a lawyer for many of the prisoners. When I go with him to Bagram and to Afghanistan, he has said at press conferences in Afghanistan where there are people present who themselves were in Guantánamo, including some of the leadership there now in Afghanistan, he says that she is the most oppressed woman in the world. And he's represented people on death row, in prisons, in Guantánamo and beyond. So, Sufyan, I wanted to ask you, in your experience, in your understanding, when you've come across Afia's name, what is it that goes through your mind as a man, as all of us as men? And something that Abdul Latif said very, very powerfully is that as a man, I could barely bear it. So what goes through your head when you hear about the case of Afia Siddiqui?
Bismillah, Sallallahu. Thank you for having me today. And good morning, good evening to everyone, human being who's believe in justice and equality in this world and terrible world what happened. Even my sister, when I heard about Sister Afia, seriously, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I can even my brother Latif, he mentioned it, and Omar mentioned it. We can survive. We are weak, and God give us His strength to continue it, because a man is not like a woman. Woman is double suffering. We can't imagine how she's feel now, how she's suffering. I am my experience for my own. Thanks to God, I still function. My mind still function, because there's a lot has happened over there, and especially in U.S. prison, as torture. You can imagine it's bad, the treatment, and you can imagine. What I hope for everyone hear us and believe in justice, fight for Afia Siddiqui, our sister, or all sisters in prison in different places, and all women, even it's not Muslim, all women, they put him in justice and in a prison, because it happened a lot. Okay, and Afia Siddiqui she's innocent because of her husband, but it's not right what they do to her. I hope, inshallah, soon. I feel her. I go pray for everyone on prison, and for her, it's painful. What can I say? I can say more on that. And yeah.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much for that. Mansoor, this is the 23rd anniversary, and we of course talked about what should we have discussed. And you asked and suggested that the first thing that we speak about is Afia Siddiqui. Alhamdulillah, there is now a petition, and that petition has reached more than 1 million, and it's one of the biggest petitions in history in terms of prisoners. And the petition is asking for clemency for Afia to be released, not because the clemency is that she committed the crime, therefore she should be released. It's because the process itself is so unjust that when we try to reopen the case, it's going to take such a long time. And so the attempt is to seek a pardon in the past few days before Biden leaves. But Mansoor, tell me, why did you want this to be at the top of the agenda on this 23rd anniversary of Guantánamo?
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يا هلا ومرحبا حبوا حياكم الله أهلا وسهلا ومرحبا مليون. Brother Mu'azzam, one of the hardest things, knowing that I have been in the black site. I have been in Kandahar. I have been in Guantanamo for years. I have been on hunger strike, force feeding, nudity. We have been through a lot, all of us. So knowing how American treat their own prisoners, what they did in the black site to the brothers and the sisters. When I heard about Sister Afia Siddiqui in Guantanamo, that was one of the hardest things ever. As men, we can handle it. As men, we can take the beating. All this too much. But imagine a woman, a mother who was kidnapped, his child was taken from her, one of her child was killed, I believe so, and the other kids were taken away. And moreover, she was tortured, she was raped, she was beaten, and moreover, she was sentenced to 70 or 80 years. For what? What crime she committed? Absolutely nothing. And when Clive sees the most oppressed woman in the world, she is. And we can see the hypocrisy and the double standard of the Western system. Talk about human rights, about women rights, about Afghani women, about women there and there and here. And yet they oppress a woman, a prisoner, the one she tortured, abused, raped, and sentenced. So I ask you, Brother Mu'azzam, to talk about this case because I believe it is one of the most important cases. We all should fight for the release of our sister, regardless, and all the sisters. Every single day, I start 4 years ago try to do something, but all I can take hold of photo. I'm like, free Afia. And I was criticized, I was like, stay away, she's, and so on and so on. Then I started reading about the case, more educating myself about the case, what happened to her. And I was shocked. Last time I listened to you in London giving the speech about what happened to her. Honestly, I don't think I can handle what she has been through, because I don't have children. I'm not a mother, because many of the brothers were tortured, were raped, and many brothers didn't make it to the black site. So yeah, this is the case we should all demand her release. Simple as that. It's really important cases, and I would like sincerely thank every single one who contributed to the petition. And we need to keep the fight to release our sister.
Thank you very much, Mansoor, for that. So there are still 15 prisoners held in Guantanamo, and we want to talk about the prisoners there. And we, of course, if we get time, we want to talk about those who've been released. 15 prisoners are still there. Mansoor, you've got some of those pictures right behind you. And of course, one of those key cases is Abu Zubaydah's, which I want to get onto. But two questions I have, and perhaps anybody, whoever wants to, just put your hand up and say, I can answer this question. I'm not necessarily going to come to each person one by one. That of these 15 prisoners, what sense do you get that they have seen that these brothers have all been released, 11 to Oman, the Yemenis, 2 to Malaysia, and 1, Abdul Malik, to Kenya. What do you think is going to be going through the heads or the minds of some of these prisoners? That's the first question. And the second is, how do you think the Trump administration is going to deal with who's left? If there's anybody want to answer that question, or should I come to you one by one? Just put your hand up if you want to answer that question. What do you think is going through the minds of the brothers who are still there, knowing that their release is taking place? What was going through your mind when people were being released and you were still there?
You know, Brother Madhav, I'd like to start with that question because I have been following these cases for years and years, and especially those brothers who have been cleared for release, and yet they were informed last year they would be released in a matter of a week. Families were informed that your relatives will be released, and being held for over a year, it was a devastation for everyone. Getting to the hope. When I was talking to my lawyer when she visited Guantánamo, I asked, "How is the brother?" She said, "Well, it seems they don't want to talk about it anymore because that was a big shock for them last year, being told you will be released, and yet they didn't release. They were kept for over a year. And when Trump won the election, it was another shock for them. They said, we are not going to leave. But alhamdulillah, as Muslims, we have faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that everything in the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the reality is, Brother Mu'azzam, only in prison on torture for over 2 decades. And yet another someone will come to the White House and promise to keep Guantanamo open and promise not to release anyone. It is hard. I'm not gonna say hard because hard is undermined. Means you sometimes you think I'm going to die in that place. I don't think we'll see the freedom. So only in this situation, what you have in your heart, faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Abdul Latif, considering you, I was going to say, Abdul Latif, you are the last one out of this group here that was freed from Guantanamo, I believe. Sorry, it was Sufyan. But nonetheless, you have a lot of experience of people leaving one group after the next, another person, many people leaving from Guantanamo over the years, and you're still there. How did you react to that knowledge that people are being released and you're still there?
Yeah, honestly, about the people, the brothers that are still there, and we are looking the Trump is now become the next president of the United States. Honestly, out of my experience, it happened to me. I was cleared in 2016, and I was waiting to travel, and I was waiting to be transferred. Me and Shafiq and Tawfiq. So, and by the way, the day that it is the election, the day that was the last day of the election, while they are counting the numbers, we couldn't sleep all the night. We are just waiting who will be the next president. So when the Trump declared that Trump it is the president of the United States and not Hillary Clinton, believe me, I couldn't sleep almost maybe 3 days, just because I know it is maybe 4 days, maybe 4 years, and maybe 8 years, and maybe even more than that. Maybe he will put someone or from his party, and maybe that means I will stay in detention indefinitely. So not just me, Shafiq, Tawfiq, and at that moment I start to feel, how can I overcome these sleeplessness that I was all of a sudden affected with, and it is all because Trump he became the president. So at that I remember there is a book, it's called in Arabic قصة الحضارات. It is a story of civilization. So I read in that book that when Napoleon was exiled, okay, and it happened with him that he couldn't sleep for all the nights. He stayed for so he complained to his doctor about his sleeplessness. So he told him, you have to work all day. You have to keep working all day. Don't take a break. Try to make a day hard for you so that you can go at the night and to sleep. And what exactly we started to do, me, Shafiq is here, and Tawfiq. We used after dinner, we used to keep working until we get tired, so that we can go and have some sleep. So I just want to show you the nightmare that it came to us when we heard that this is Trump now it's become the president. So I feel that the same things those brothers will feel, because they know what mean Trump for them. They see this the bad of the bad, and they will keep the Guantánamo open, and they will bring other people to come there. So I just pray Allah for them to be so strong, and for some kind to be released. Something, yeah.
I mean,
and that's my point. It is, I just want to chill all this issue, because I want people to do something for, at least for the people that are already declared, for the people that they can be cleared and they don't need, they have no accusation, and they have no trial.
That's an important reflection, Jazakallah khair, Abdul Latif, because unfortunately, that what happens with Guantanamo is that because it's gone on for so long, there's people's asking questions: is that still open? Are there still prisoners there? And the periods, the short periods that we get any traction in the media is on the anniversaries and when somebody's released, and perhaps if that is it, we don't hear anything else. So, Shafiq, Sufyan, you've been mentioned a few times in relation to that experience, because you're one of the last people to be released.
Yeah.
So tell me, what could you add to what Abdul Latif has just said in terms of what do you think is going through the minds of people?
What is nightmare, as he said, he's mentioned about the story about what he said. We are 3 or 4 because we have, Obama administration, we have clear from review board, 2016, like in September, I think August. After that, I've been prepared to get released. They say everyone who have release paper is supposed to leave. After the last group, January, I think 17, 2017. Believe me, I couldn't sleep for 3 days or more at that. And that we see an airplane when they leave, and they leave. Wallah, swear to God, you can't imagine how we feel. We can walk and keep all night walking, thinking, oh, maybe like a full hour. I'll be going, maybe it's terrible experience. But we accept our destiny, because destiny, we are believe, or as Muslim, we accept our destiny. But he was painful, and they put it behind it one time. So quickly, I have phone call with my lawyers. I refused to go, and the guard called my brothers. I say, you have to wake up him. You have to go. I say, why? He said, you have to go. They know the news. When I went there, his lawyer, he surprised me, shocked me. He say, I don't think so, Sufyan will be released and this time. They put you 5 names behind it. And in December, the end of December, maybe less than 2 weeks left for Trump administration, for new president. And it was like this experience. I feel what they feel, and also when people get released, and group by group, I feel happy for them. But in the meantime, be honest, as human, I feel sad. I feel sad. I want to go. Like they have chance. I've been experienced through I have military commission twice. Twice. It was like a very hardship for me, and also for my disability. But I feel what they feel. I hope they get released soon, inshallah. We can do. We do fight for them. We pray. And thank you, Mozambique, for all your effort, and Mansour, or for Cage, and everyone help get most cases and the situation. Thank you very
much. Thank you. Omar, your return, of course, was different, and your experience of getting out from Guantanamo was similar to the cases of those who get sent straight from Guantanamo, not to resettlement or to repatriation, but to re-imprisonment. And there have been several cases. The guys who were sent, 23 prisoners sent to the UAE, of which I spoke to several of them in Afghanistan who were sent from Guantánamo to the UAE. And I spoke to one prisoner who said that his ordeal, he'd been imprisoned by the Soviet Union during the Afghan jihad, he'd been imprisoned by the Americans in Guantanamo, and he'd been imprisoned in the UAE. And he said that that was the worst of his prison experiences in the UAE because they were Muslims and the expectation was something, to be treated better. In your case, Omar, you were re-imprisoned in Canada before you were freed, and then eventually got an apology from Trudeau. But how did you look at the cases of people being released? Did you think, oh, when I'm going home, I'm actually going to go home, or were you already aware that you're going to go from one prison to the next?
So my release has humbled me a lot. I've always mentioned that, subhanAllah, going through prison has, like, I was raised in Guantanamo, and I went in with a lot of inferiority complex about, the West and what it means to be in the West, and I always thought that the best thing in the world is the West. And bit by bit, that got chipped away. It's not the West. It's, it's good human beings. So I was, as I said, I grew up, so every time I would have a certain expectation, it would be let down, whether it's, oh, okay, I got arrested by the Americans, can't be that bad. And then I went through Guantanamo and I'm like, sheesh. I was excited about going back to Canada. I'm like, halas, we're going back home. There's laws and stuff. I came back and I was let down again. And it's teaching me and it's making me grow that, we live in a very populous society. And, I know certain governments might have certain policies, but in the end, they're all, two sides of the same coin. I live here in Canada. And a lot of people say I'm lucky, whether for the apology or settlement or whatnot. But it's not about me, and it's not about us individuals. It's about everybody. It's about the idea that a certain group of people could be misused and abused and their rights being taken away. That is what it's about. And that's right now is what I'm trying to focus on. Like I can't imagine what people are going through in Guantanamo. And I hope, and inshallah, like I have faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, they've held on to their faith, because that's what kind of kept me from going astray and from losing my mind. And I have faith that Allah has protected them and they've come out better and stronger people. And, this life is all a journey for all of us. Allah decides, what's going to happen to each one of us, what we can handle. And just because we have gone through these hard experiences doesn't mean that it's over for us, that we've done what's required of us. Our responsibility will keep on going, whether it's fighting for Afia or whether fighting for the rest of the people in Guantanamo or any other, prison outside, out there.
Thank you, and Jazakallah khair for that reflections.
You're muted, Brother Malcolm.
We've got the picture of Abu Zubaydah behind him, and Abu Zubaydah is one of the cases that's very close to most of us, or to many of us. To me, I knew Abu Zubaydah from before. I knew him. One of the questions you have to ask is, why, as a Palestinian, would anybody go to Afghanistan? Why would you be there? And the reason is because of what's happened to you as a Palestinian, what's happened to your homeland, where you've come from, what you've experienced. And in his diaries, he writes, I feel like I'm a humiliated individual who is a person with no land to call his own. And that, so many decades later, is so true, so visible. Abu Zubaydah suffered, the entire torture program was developed to try to break Abu Zubaydah, putting him in a coffin alive, forcing him to be subjected to waterboarding 83 different times, being sent to all of these different black sites around the world, from Thailand to Poland to Lithuania to Romania. And then, the irony and the hypocrisy is that Abu Zubaydah gets compensated by the European courts of human rights, forced upon these European nations, yet he remains in Guantánamo. So I want to ask Sufyan, if I could. I know that you were imprisoned with him, you captured alongside him. You have some knowledge and understanding of Abu Zubaydah's case from history. Could you share with us your thoughts, please?
Says as Zubaydah is a very nice guy. Is educated, okay. I know him for sure. Even the American they admit, they say he's not from Qaeda. It is for 100%. As you know, everyone knows Qaeda is a state title. They play as ticket. They play what they want, And this is politics everywhere. Just names, okay, just names. Abu Zubaydah is was captured that night with his shot with his stomach, almost lost his life. And we are without nothing. We don't have no arm, no nothing. With American, the CIA come with the special forces, and Abu Zubaydah is supposed to be treated right and is supposed to be released because, as you mentioned, he don't have any land. He suffered his life. He has a lot his face, and Afghanistan is a simple person. It's not like that. He just help people, charity there, and nothing like to have anybody. But as what happened to him is not right, in him or anybody else. If you can ask me a question, but this is what I come to my mind now. Yes, that night was terrible, and I never forget about that night. And one guy is passed away, he's lost his life, and one of the guys is shot also. I mean, I'll get lucky. They beat us a lot, okay, that night. Special forces, Pakistani, and it was a terrible night. Okay, yeah, this would come to my mind. If you ask me a question, I would be happy to answer.
No, thank you.
Okay. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, we are at the end of what we can play of this broadcast. Again, this was a very special discussion that former prisoners of Guantanamo had among themselves, hosted by our good brother from the Cage organization out of the UK, Brother Moazzam Beg. Inshallah ta'ala, we're going to include the link so that you can watch the rest of this this very important conversation at your own leisure. And I hope that you took to heart the amount of time they spent in the beginning of their discussion on how they felt about the unjust imprisonment and torture of Dr. Afia Siddiqui. With that said, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to conclude the broadcast for this week. Again, I am in Texas. I expect to be back home, inshallah ta'ala, in the early part of next week. Until then, the struggle continues on all fronts. We close as we normally do. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wal asr innal insana lafi khusr. Illa alladhina amanu wa amalu salihat wa tawassaw bil haqq wa tawassaw bis sabr, which means, in the translation of the meaning, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, by the token of time through the ages, surely humanity is in loss, except those who believe and do good, and exhort one another to truth, and exhort one another to patiently persevere. Peace be unto you. Assalamu alaikum.